Welcome, fellow night owls, to Bedtime True Crime, the YouTube channel that delves deep into the chilling world of true crime, serial killers, and unsolved mysteries. Join us as we journey into the shadows, unearthing spine-tingling tales that are sure to keep you awake at night. Our in-depth investigations will bring these horrifying cases to life, leaving you with an insatiable thirst for more. Before we dive in, if you're new here and enjoy our stories, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another thrilling episode. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to be captivated by the sinister side of human nature as we delve into today's bone-chilling story. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, a series of gruesome murders took place along the picturesque California coast. College students were disappearing without a trace, their mutilated bodies later found discarded like trash on remote highways or buried in shallow graves. As fear gripped the community, authorities scrambled to piece together these seemingly random killings that would eventually lead them to one man, Edmund Kemper III. Born on December 18, 1948, in Burbank, California, Edmund Kemper was raised in an environment rife with abuse and neglect. His mother Clarnell was an alcoholic who constantly belittled her son and his father. Edmund II was often absent due to his job as an electrician, while also struggling with mental health issues. The couple's tumultuous relationship ultimately led to divorce when young Kemper was just 9 years old. After the separation, Kemper lived primarily with his mother and two sisters in Montana. It wasn't long before he began exhibiting signs of disturbing behavior, from torturing animals to staging elaborate rituals involving decapitated dolls. At age 15, under immense emotional strain from his mother's relentless criticism and feeling alienated from his peers at school, Kemper committed a horrifying act. He murdered both of his paternal grandparents. In this chilling tale that exposes the depths of human depravity and explores how childhood trauma can spiral into unimaginable violence, we'll follow the twisted path of Edmund Kemper, known as the co-ed killer. Weaving through a world where innocence meets evil head-on, you'll be left questioning what drove this troubled soul down such a dark road. And brace yourselves for a shocking revelation about one final murder that will leave your blood running cold. The first of Kemper's gruesome murders as an adult began on May 7, 1972. After serving 5 years at the Atascadero State Hospital for his previous crimes and being released under the misguided belief that he was no longer a threat to society, Kemper moved back in with his mother in Santa Cruz, California. It wasn't long before Edmund Kemper found himself consumed by violent fantasies once more. He devised a sinister plan, posing as a friendly college student offering rides to unsuspecting female hitchhikers. His victims would soon discover the terrifying truth behind their seemingly harmless driver. 21-year-old Anita Lucchesa and 18-year-old Marianne Pess were finishing up their freshman year at Fresno State College when they unknowingly accepted a ride from Kemper. As they climbed into his car, neither had any idea of the horrors that awaited them just down the road. Kemper drove the young women to a remote location near Alameda, where he brutally murdered both girls, stabbing one repeatedly while suffocating the other with her own scarf. With chilling precision, he then dismembered their lifeless bodies and placed them in plastic bags before disposing of them along various highways across Northern California. The shocking brutality of these senseless murders marked only the beginning of Edmund Kemper's reign of terror. Over time, his methods grew increasingly grotesque, each murder becoming more depraved than the last as he acted out his twisted fantasies upon innocent lives snuffed out far too soon. On September 14, 1972, Kemper struck again. This time his victims were two young women from Cabrillo College, Aiko Koo and Cindy Schall. The unsuspecting pair accepted a ride from the seemingly affable Kemper, unaware of the fate that awaited them. Once they were inside his car, Kemper drove to a secluded area where he proceeded to handcuff and strangle Aiko Koo before turning his attention to Cindy Schall, who had been locked in the trunk during the ordeal. He callously shot her with a .22 caliber pistol before returning home with their lifeless bodies hidden in the back of his vehicle. Deepening the horror, Kemper's mother was at home when he arrived with his gruesome cargo. As if possessed by an unquenchable thirst for violence, Kemper dismembered both girls' corpses in the bathroom, while his mother slept just rooms away. Afterward, he buried their severed heads in the backyard and discarded other body parts along nearby cliffs. The grisly nature of these murders sent shockwaves through Santa Cruz as fear gripped residents like never before. With each passing day, more questions arose about how someone could commit such unspeakable acts without detection or remorse. Despite this reign of terror unfolding around him, Edmund Kemper managed to maintain a semblance of normalcy on the surface, even forging friendships with local police officers who remained oblivious to his true identity as the co-ed killer. Little did anyone know that beneath this carefully crafted facade lurked one of America's most depraved serial killers. On February 5, 1973, Kemper's murderous impulses resurfaced once again. This time, he targeted Rosalind Thorpe and Alice Liu, two students from the University of California, Santa Cruz. Kemper offered them a ride on a cold winter night as they left their campus library. The young women gratefully accepted the offer, unaware that it would be their last moments alive. As Kemper drove along an isolated stretch of road, he pulled out his .22 caliber pistol and shot both girls in the head. With chilling deliberation, Kemper took the bodies back to his mother's house, where he dismembered them in the bathtub, just like he had done with previous victims. He then disposed of their remains over a cliff near Eden Canyon Road. As each murder grew more gruesome than the last, one thing remained constant: Edmund Kemper's seemingly insatiable appetite for violence. His twisted fantasies continued to escalate unchecked until April 20th, when events finally reached their horrifying climax. On that fateful day, enraged by another argument with his abusive mother Clarnell Strandberg Kemper, Edmund snapped. In a fit of uncontrollable rage and pent-up resentment fueled by years of abuse and belittlement at her hands, he bludgeoned his own mother to death using a claw hammer while she slept. Driven even further into madness by this final act of matricide, Kemper invited his mother's best friend Sally Hallett over to the house under false pretenses before strangling her too. With these shocking murders now staining his already blood-soaked hands, Kemper realized there was no turning back. As the community reeled in terror from these gruesome crimes, authorities intensified their efforts to find the person responsible for such brutality. Police officers worked tirelessly to collect evidence and build a case that would eventually lead them to Edmund Kemper. During this time, investigators scoured crime scenes searching for any clues that could help identify the perpetrator. They meticulously sifted through witness accounts, combed through forensic evidence, and analyzed patterns of behavior exhibited by the killer. One significant challenge faced during the investigation was Kemper's cunning ability to evade detection. Despite his imposing 6'9" frame and distinctive appearance, he managed to blend seamlessly into society, even striking up friendships with local law enforcement, who remained unaware of his true identity as the co-ed killer. However, it wasn't long before cracks began to appear in Kemper's carefully constructed facade. As police continued their relentless pursuit of justice, they discovered damning pieces of evidence linking him directly to the murders. Shell casings matching those used in the killings found inside his car and bloodstains on items belonging to some victims recovered from his home. With mounting pressure closing in around him after murdering both his mother and her friend Sally Hallett, Edmund Kemper knew that there was no escape from the inevitable consequences of his actions. The lives of the victims and their families were forever changed by Edmund Kemper's heinous actions. The pain of losing a loved one to such brutality left an indelible mark on those who were left behind, struggling to make sense of the unfathomable violence that had taken away someone they held dear. Anita Luchessa, Marianne Pess, Aiko Koo, Cindy Shaw, Rosalind Thorpe, Alice Liu, all young women with bright futures ahead of them whose lives were tragically cut short due to Kemper's twisted desires. Their friends and classmates mourned these tragic losses as college campuses in California became shrouded in fear and uncertainty. Survivor accounts paint a chilling picture of just how close some individuals came to falling prey to the co-ed killer. One woman recalled accepting a ride from Kemper only to become increasingly uneasy during their journey together. Her instincts ultimately saved her life when she managed to escape his clutches before meeting the same grisly fate as many others before her. As heart-wrenching stories like this emerged in the aftermath of the murders, it served as a stark reminder that monsters can lurk where we least expect them, sometimes hiding behind seemingly ordinary faces. Edmund Kemper, the man behind these horrific crimes, was a complex and deeply troubled individual. His childhood experiences of abuse and neglect undoubtedly played a significant role in shaping his twisted psyche. Kemper's mother, Clarnell, was an overbearing woman who subjected her son to constant humiliation and emotional torment throughout his upbringing. She would frequently berate him for being weird, ugly, and even accused him of harboring murderous inclinations from an early age, ironically foreshadowing his eventual descent into darkness. It is believed that this toxic environment fostered within young Edmund a seething resentment towards women which ultimately culminated in the brutal killings he committed as an adult. As he grew older, Kemper developed morbid fantasies involving violence against women, which served as both a coping mechanism and a means of exacting revenge on those who had tormented him during his formative years. Despite having been institutionalized at Atascadero State Hospital following the murders of his paternal grandparents at just 15 years old, Kemper managed to convince psychiatrists that he no longer posed a threat to society, paving the way for his release back into the community where he would go on to commit further atrocities. As investigators pieced together Kemper's dark past, they began to unravel the tangled web of motivations that drove him down such a sinister path, exposing one of America's most chilling serial killers. In the days following the murders of his mother and her friend, Kemper fled to Colorado in a desperate attempt to evade capture. However, as he listened to radio reports about the manhunt for the co-ed killer, he realized that it was only a matter of time before authorities closed in on him. On April 24, 1973, Edmund Kemper made a fateful decision that would ultimately seal his fate. He placed a call to the Santa Cruz Police Department from a payphone in Pueblo, Colorado. During this chilling conversation, he confessed to all of the murders, including those of his own mother and Sally Hallett. Initially skeptical of Kemper's claims due to their familiarity with him as an acquaintance rather than a suspect, officers soon found themselves confronted with irrefutable evidence confirming his guilt. The subsequent manhunt ended when police apprehended Kemper without incident at the very same phone booth where he had made his confession. As news broke of Edmund Kemper's arrest and identity as the co-ed killer, shockwaves rippled through communities across California. Many struggled to reconcile how someone they thought they knew could be capable of committing such unspeakable acts. Following his arrest, Edmund Kemper faced trial for the gruesome murders he had committed. The proceedings were marked by a macabre fascination with the details of each crime, as well as an intense focus on Kemper's twisted motivations. Throughout the trial, key pieces of evidence were presented to paint a vivid picture of just how calculated and brutal these killings truly were. This included blood-stained items belonging to victims found in Kemper's home, weapons used during the murders, and chilling testimony from investigators who recounted their interactions with him following his confession. Kemper himself offered little insight into why he had carried out these atrocities apart from citing his deep-seated hatred towards women stemming from years of abuse at the hands of his mother. Despite this, there was no denying that he possessed a keen understanding of the consequences of his actions, having once remarked that murder is irreversible. On November 8, 1973, after 5 weeks of harrowing testimonies and disturbing revelations, Edmund Kemper was convicted on 8 counts of first-degree murder. He received multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, effectively sealing him away behind bars where he could never harm another innocent soul again. As we reflect on this chilling tale filled with unspeakable horrors and lives forever changed by one man's descent into darkness, it serves as a stark reminder that monsters can indeed walk among us, sometimes hidden beneath ordinary faces. In this harrowing tale of Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer, we have delved deep into a world where innocence meets evil head-on. We've explored his troubled upbringing marked by abuse and neglect, which ultimately fueled his twisted fantasies and insatiable thirst for violence. We traced the chilling path of destruction left in his wake, as he claimed the lives of young women who had their entire futures stolen from them in unimaginable acts of brutality. And now, with Kemper locked away behind bars for life, there's some semblance of justice, though it can never truly erase the pain and suffering inflicted upon those affected by his monstrous deeds. That'll be all for this evening, fellow night owls. We love to hear your feedback, so if there's a notorious killer or sinister story you want us to cover, please let us know in the comments, which we check daily. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all our stories and allow us to continue telling our true crime tales.